Thank you. Good morning. It is Thursday, September the 3rd at about 10 after 11 in the morning. Thank you for attending the virtual public hearing for the 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development and the first year action plan that supports that for the state of Connecticut Department of Housing. I want to thank you all for attending. This is a little different than our normal process. Normally we do a public comment period and then a virtual public hearing at or near the end of the public hearing, at or near the end of the public comment period. We're flipping the script to see if we can get some additional input or some more active participation. We are doing the virtual public hearing today, which is also the first day for written public comment. Essentially our process today will be, I'll give you a short introduction and overview of the 5-year consolidated plan, and at the same time, a snapshot of what we intend for the first year that supports that annual action plan. You will then have both the opportunity to comment now virtually or provide written comment electronically to ct.housing.plans@ct.gov. Again, that's ct.housing.plans@ct.gov. We will accept electronic written comment for the next 5 days. I think we actually extended it. We go to September 8th. Am I correct, Laura? Hopefully. It's in the public notice. I believe that is, in fact, what we are doing, that we will go through the end of the day on Tuesday, September the 8th. So what you see on the screen right now is the specific details on the anticipated allocation for the first year of the consolidated 5-year plan. I will shut that off, and again, I will give you a brief overview. The plan, as established through the Federal Integrated Disbursement and Information System, or IDIS, is laid out on the department's website. It is available for your review and comment. The sections of the plan are laid out by federal regulation and through HUD's electronic entry system. In the past, we've created a freestanding 5-year plan document to support the federal submission. In light of COVID and everything else that has been going on relative to the Department of Housing and the state of Connecticut overall, this year we are defaulting to the standard format as it appears in the Integrated Disbursement and Information System. Those of you who were on early, you heard me comment that I am not thrilled with the federal format or layout, but it is what is required by the federal government. So rather than follow their guidelines and then create something of our own this year, we are relying on what their requirements are. The plan lays out statistical analysis and demographic data based on housing need across the state of Connecticut in association with the American Community Survey, which is updated census data. Obviously, a year from now, we will have the new 2020 census data. And in subsequent annual action plans, we may make adjustments based on the findings of that new ACS and census data. In the meantime, our 5-year action plan talks about the department's priorities for the 5 formula grant programs that are specifically covered by the Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development. Those 5 programs are Community Development Block Grant, Small Cities, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, or HOPWA, the Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, or HOME, and the National Housing Trust Fund. The National Housing Trust Fund is the newest of those. It is 5 years old, 4 years old now. No, 5 years old. It's right the first time. It was covered as an addendum to our last 5-year action plan. It came after the time frame for submission of that 5-year plan, but it is now incorporated into a regular 5-year plan. Methods of distribution, geographic distribution, priorities are different for each of those 5 formula grant programs. I won't attempt to summarize them here. Please review the document. Each section is highlighted and identified and specific to that formula grant. It follows the specific regulatory guidelines for those individual programs. There are very few similarities between the 5 formula grants, with the exception of Home and National Housing Trust Fund. Those 2 programs do run in parallel, and many of the regulatory requirements are similar, if not the same, for those 2 activities. What I had up a moment ago, what I will put up again right now, these are the anticipated funding levels for those 5 formula grants. As you can see, CDBG small cities, we expect $13,851,472 for RHP, which I really don't know what is. That is not ours. I wonder why that's, and National Housing Trust Fund is not here. Interesting. Forget this, RHP. Home, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, $9,447,328. ESG, $2.366278 in emergency solutions grants. On HOPWA, $265,668. In addition, what is not shown here is the National Housing Trust Fund allocation, which is $3.12 million. The Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development, again, lays out overall needs based on demographic data available to the state of Connecticut through ACS and the census data. At the same time, we are currently undertaking a detailed housing needs study separate from the ConPlan process. That study being conducted through the Supportive Housing Works in conjunction with 4 subcontractors. We'll try to identify and create a needs, supply, and demand model to identify affordable housing needs across the state of Connecticut. In the meantime, while we wait for that study to be completed, we are following HUD's guidelines in terms of the use of the ACS data and the creation of our document. In general terms, the department is taking a balanced approach to the creation, preservation, and development of affordable housing, addressing the needs of our homeless population or our imminently homeless population, and crafting community development solutions in coordination with our small towns. This plan lays out those priorities again, as I mentioned a moment earlier. Please take a moment, read through the plan for any relevant sections to your interest. At this point, I'm going to ask anyone interested in testifying or providing verbal testimony at this time, please raise your hand in the Teams app. To do that, put your mouse in the middle of the screen, drag towards the bottom, you'll get the action bar, and you'll see a little hand that will say raise your hand. Click on the button, your hand will get raised, and we will call on you when it is your turn to speak. Please be aware, I can mute you. I cannot unmute you. You will need to unmute yourself. So if you've called in on the phone, it means dial *6 to unmute. If you called in on the phone, you obviously can't raise your hand. I'll open up in general for public comment before we end the session, so that if you indeed have additional comments, you'll have the opportunity to do so. At the moment, I see one hand up, and we will go to that individual, David Gonzalez-Rice. David, would you please unmute yourself, identify yourself and the organization you represent, and then the floor is yours. Thank you.
Oh, good morning. This is David Gonzalez-Rice with Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness. I hope you can hear me all right. My connection seems a little spotty today.
Loud and clear.
Great, thank you. So I want to support many of the priorities in this plan. It struck me looking at the ConPlan from 2015 to 2019, what a long way Connecticut has come in the last few years. I've made big strides in reducing homelessness as reflected in our point-in-time count. I did want to ask about the proposed uses of the Small Cities Community Development Block Grants. We were able in the last couple of years in Connecticut to make creative use of small cities to support the work of the CANs, particularly with a focus on shelter diversion and with staffing positions that we often call navigators. It allowed a lot of the CANs to ramp up some of that front door problem-solving work they do to prevent households from falling into homelessness in the first place. What I note in the current document is about 350,000 as the proposed amount for that purpose, which I'm sorry, I actually can't find what the current allocation under small cities is, but that struck me as it looked like a reduction. So that's a question to anybody from the Department of Housing who can speak to whether that's a change, of what magnitude, and what the rationale would be.
Sorry. Sure, David. I can speak to that. Under the first year action plan for this 5-year plan, the $350,000 you're referring to is the carryover amount that's required based on the prior year commitment already. So we know that at least $350,000 of the new CDBG allocation will be allocated for that particular public service. It is not the allocation we intend to set aside for public service under the new allocation. We are allowed under federal regulation to commit up to 15% of our total award towards public service activities. We are and have indicated in our plan that we will offer, but not set aside that 15%. That is, if we get requests from communities who are eligible for small cities, we will fund up to the full 15% of the $13,851,472, which quick math says is just under $2 million. Right now, we know 350,000 of that is already committed.
That's very helpful. Thanks. Clarifies. Looking here, my back of the envelope math also shows those allocations do not add up to 13 million, and you've just described. But again, appreciate the department's continued commitment to funding this effective system that we've been able to put together here in Connecticut. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Anyone else have specific public comment on the plan as of right now? The plan has been up for almost a week. But again, you do have an additional really 6 days to provide comment on that plan. But if you have questions or if you have comments on the plan as it exists right now, I'm happy to entertain them.
Michael, Tim Hildner.
Would you please introduce yourself, and if you represent an organization, the organization that you represent?
Certainly, yeah. Again, the name's Tim Hildner. I am the chair here in Lyme of the Affordable Housing Commission. And it's just a question with respect to the first year action plan related to all of this. Has that been posted to the website? I was not able to find it, so I thought maybe I needed to look someplace else.
No, it is actually part of the consolidated plan itself. So if you find the 5-year consolidated plan, the various components of the action plan are embedded within that 5-year plan.
Okay, and are they segregated within that 5-year plan?
They are segregated only in the sense that they are by by layout and by program. So let me actually, I have it up. Home, and I will share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, what you see now, and I apologize for the quick scrolling. This is the executive summary.
Yes.
Okay, which talks about the overall 5-year plan. This entire section is simply a summary of that process. Let me do this. Actually, I think I need to do it this way. Now, it's going to be a challenge. All right, hold on. Right the first time. Part of the problems that I have with the federal setup is
Yeah.
that there is no table of contents, so that you can't actually get there quickly or easily.
I see.
I think this is where I want. Okay. Yes, we are in the action plan section. There we go. AP 90. So that's the program specific. Bear with me while I start, and we'll scroll up to the top of the action plan section. If you see this,
Okay, yes.
AP stands for action plan. So that is part of the action plan section of the document. Let me try.
And that would be for 2021.
That is for 2021, correct.
Understood.
Let me try this. Maybe it'll get me there. Okay. We still in the EP. No, there we are. So the first section of the action plan starts with expected resources. Oh, it went away. Gosh dang it. Let me go back there. Pardon me. And I'm basically going backwards through to get to the start of the action plan itself.
Okay.
But it's AP 15.
Okay, and that 15 only is just as a numeric
Well,
reference.
to be frank, it is the way that the screens are laid out within the federal integrated disbursement information system. So this would be the 15th screen in the action plan section.
Okay, good to know.
So in any case, so what you can see here is it starts with anticipated resources, and there's a table. CDBG, we anticipate in year one, 13,851,472. So for the entire con plan, we expect a total of $55,405,888 for the term of the 5-year plan.
I see.
Okay. Similarly, you'll see those numbers for home, HOPWA, ESG, and National Housing Trust Fund.
I see.
Okay. Now, at the same time, you'll see this category, other.
Yes.
And this is something I haven't mentioned yet, but I will. This consolidated plan also covers the anticipated state resources that we expect over the next 5 years to be committed to housing programs and activities that support all of these other federal programs.
Oh, interesting.
So we expect about $135 million in the coming year, for a total of just over $500 million for the remainder of the 5-year period. The subsequent sections are the action plan itself that talks about how we will administer all of those funds. In particular, it's focused on how we will administer our federal programs, but there's also information on how we will administer the state programs that in fact support those federal activities.
Got it.
Okay.
Great.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. So at this point, and let me stop sharing again. Our public hearing is really intended to get or solicit comments from you on our plan, but at the same time, as Mr. Hildner did, ask questions. If we can clarify things for you so that you can more effectively comment on our plan, on our priorities, our intentions for how we will be addressing the affordable housing needs of the state of Connecticut over the next 5-year period, that's really what we want to hear. Again, I'll go back and simply state, you'll notice in the plan that we talk about a balanced approach to affordable housing. We recognize that the needs of our urban centers is different than our suburban areas, which is different than our rural communities. When I say that, I don't necessarily just mean the types of housing, but the approach that we take in bringing the community needs forward in those areas may vary. As an example, we know that in our urban centers, a focus on renewed homeownership opportunities, in addition to the preservation of our existing resources, is necessary. We can't commit to one activity or the other. We believe under this administration, we need to take a balanced approach. We need to encourage new home ownership opportunities in our communities without ignoring the needs of our existing affordable housing stock in those communities. Similarly, our rural communities that don't have a lot of public service or public facilities and infrastructure still need affordable housing and need community development opportunities. We are taking a balanced approach in that regard as well. We want to look at, can we bring or improve public facilities in those communities to improve access to affordable housing opportunities, while at the same time recognizing these communities may have a greater need, not for home ownership, although they may have some, they may have a greater need for rental housing. And in particular, again, pardon me, more deeply income targeted rental housing. Similarly, when we talk about our suburbs, there's a more balanced need in many of our suburbs. They may have public transportation, but their public infrastructure may need help. They may have access to good public infrastructure, but their density is such that they can't promote the development of significantly dense units. Can we find ways, such as mixed commercial residential, in those urban and near urban or urban center-like communities? We recognize, again, there's a balance, and that is our intent over the next 5 years. Questions, anybody? If you're on the phone, you can unmute yourself by dialing *6. I encourage you to do so now. Please don't be shy. If you have questions, there's no such thing as a bad question, because if you don't know the answer, you don't know, and the only way you're going to know is if you ask. Similarly, anyone who's in the room, if you do have access to the Teams app, please raise your hand just for clarity. Anybody on the phone, anything? Okay. At this point, I really don't have much more to add. Again, I will reiterate, we are accepting comments on the plan between now and the end of the day on September the 8th. Oh, I see a hand up. Hold on. Or I thought, oh, no, Mr. Kirshner is simply leaving. In any case, we are happy to take comment. If you have questions in the meantime, please submit your questions or comments to ct.housing.plans@ct.gov. That's ct.housing.plans@ct.gov. That's an individualized inbox that only Laura and myself have access to. Please be aware your comments are public information. They will be included in our submission to the federal government with this consolidated and action plan. The actual comments will be addended to the report. We will also summarize and respond to all comments received. So if you have questions, ask. We'd be happy to answer them, both to you directly, as well as make sure that we address them in the plan itself. Any questions at all from anybody? All right. Well, I thank you all for your time and your participation. I look forward to your written comments as we go forward for the next 5 days. I hope all of you are safe, healthy, and have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Thank you all. And this public hearing is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.